Welcome everyone to Intro to Fleets. This is a core class we have here at the Uni. This is a very useful class. It should help you get comfortable understanding what the different types of fleets are, what's required in them, how you join them, what communications, etc. I know it can be very intimidating when you first start playing Eve to see all these fleets happening and all these strange acronyms and code words being used, trying to understand. So hopefully this class will help you feel a lot more comfortable with that. So what's it looking like today? What are we going to go over? We're going to talk about the benefits of fleets. So why you might want to join them, what you can get out of them. We're going to look at how you can fly into fleets that you want to join and some of the different types of fleets. We're going to look at the fleet roles, so the different things that you can do once you're in a fleet. We're going to look at how you can get ready for a fleet before you join it. We're going to look at some of the communications and commands, some of the weird stuff FCs say that might be confusing. We'll have a Q&A at the end, and then we'll move over to the practical fleet that I talked about. Again, you do not have to come on the practical fleet. If you just are here just to watch, that's perfectly fine. I encourage you to come, but no worries there. And before we dive into the content, I want to put out a disclaimer. This class has a lot of information in it. There's a lot to cover here, and I don't expect you to remember all of it. There's going to be a bunch of different commands. There's going to be a bunch of different roles. Don't try to memorize everything. There's no test on this. You will not be tested. You do not have to be an expert at all this. Focus on just retaining what you can and don't stress too much over it. When we do the fleet, you'll see a lot of it in practice and a lot of it will start to make sense to you. And I will point out as we go what's really important to make sure. Let's dive in. So, what is a fleet? A fleet is a temporary group of people working together regardless of their corporate alliance. A lot of fleets will be based on just all people in the same corp, but you can have fleets that have mixed groups. And fleets are temporary. It's something you can join 10 fleets in a day. You can fly with a person one day and shoot them the next day. A fleet is a temporary group. Some of the benefits of being in a fleet is you get fleet chat. Fleet chat is great for coordinating with other people, whether you're flying with them or just to give each other a heads up. You can also use fleets for navigation. You can broadcast or put in there where people should go. And you can do group warps. If you look at that screenshot on the right-hand side there, that is a screenshot of a group warp. So that is a fleet all warping together, so they all take off and land at the same time. And being in a fleet makes it easy to share some tactical information. We can use our broadcast to share who we should be shooting, who we should be healing. So all of this being said, being in a fleet just makes it easier for communication with people around you as we go through. There's a bunch of different types of fleets. We've got PvE fleets to start. These are ones that you'll see around. We do a lot of these in the uni, so you might have seen or even been on some of these already. There's people that go and run missions together. So right now in the uni, we have a lot of people that go and run level 4 missions out in Avignon, which is a few jumps from Stackman. They run these in ships ranging from battle cruisers to marauders. They just go and run a bunch of level 4 missions together and share all the money from it. It can be a good money maker. They're very new player friendly there. They welcome people. Now that Uni is moving from Stackman over to Korsiki, we're going to have to find a new area for that, but there's a bunch of areas near there that people can do mission fleets together too. There's mining fleets. We do a lot of mining fleets right next door to Stackman over in Slays. Mining fleets are a great benefit because when you join a fleet to mine, they usually have a special ship there that will give you buffs that make it so that you mine faster. And they do something called compression, which will let you make your ore much smaller so you don't have to keep warping away. If you haven't tried mining in a fleet and you're someone who likes mining, I heavily recommend trying it in a fleet. It is so much better than solo mining. People do run combat sites in fleets as well, similar to missions, but those are more what you can find in your probe scanner window. And then incursions are high-end PvE. So this is a bit more advanced ships people are doing. They make a lot of money. They go and they fight enemies together. On the other side, we have the PvP fleets. These are more where I spend my time. I don't do a lot of the PvE fleets. I'm a PvPer personally, so these are where I spend my time. We have Roams and Yeet fleets, the first two. Honestly, these are kind of the same thing, just based on where we live. But these are fleets where you go out in a group of ships and you just look for enemies to fight. Maybe you roam into an area nearby, or maybe you take a filament, and the filaments warp you to a random spot in nullsec. We call filamenting yeeting, so that's what a yeet fleet is. It's when you take a filament. Roams and yeet fleets very similar. Quick response fleets, or QRFs, are something that are done more often during wartime or for people who live in more hostile space. This is when something happens and maybe enemies just show up and you need people to attack them right now. So a QRF would be some more enemies show up in our system. Somebody pings on Discord and says, oh, hey, everybody, there's enemies. Come fight them right now. That's a QRF. If you go to Wormhole Campus, does a lot of QRFs, for example. We have strategic operations as well. Stratops are big. These are important events. When we do stratops, they're usually for something related to the uni as a whole, and quite often they're war targets, but they also might be us anchoring new stations or doing things there. We had a couple stratops 2 weeks ago now, if any of you had the chance to attend them. These are big, important things for the uni. They're usually pinged in a separate channel. This is something that we encourage everyone to attend. Ships are usually given out as loaners for these ones. And these aren't so much for fun, they're more to accomplish a goal that we have. So we go out and PvP for fun on roams, but for stratops, we do it more for a goal, like defending our structures or attacking enemy ones. There's a question in chat. Is the move to the new system a strat op? Because we are moving from high to high sec, it won't be a strat op. No. If we were moving to low sec or null sec, we might do some strat ops there. But because it's high sec, it's more casual than that. The last type of PvP fleet there we have is a Black Ops fleet or Blops fleet. These are where you fly stealthy bombers and you sit cloaked up, and then enemies are found and you get to basically take it's called a sino or a bridge, but it's basically like a custom jump gate right to where the enemies are. These are a lot of fun. They do require Omega status to fly in because you have to fly a cloak, which is Omega only. If you've heard of Bomber's Bar or seen anything Bomber's Bar does, they are Blops fleets. Here in the uni, we do have one or two Blops pilots that run. I think there was a fleet yesterday, for example, but it's not something we do super commonly here. And in the middle of the overlap you see there, we have standing fleets and faction warfare. Standing fleets are handy to know about. These are just fleets that always exist. If you look in your fleet finder right now, you'll probably see a high sec standing and a wormhole standing. The point of standing fleets is if you're online and you're not doing anything else in a fleet, you just join the standing fleet. That way you can chat with people in there. If there's something dangerous happening or some good intel, that's a good spot to share it. Sometimes somebody might find some really valuable or gas and they don't want to announce it in Discord because then everyone comes, but they'll just mention it in standing fleet. If you're in a dangerous area of space, like if you're in a nullsec standing fleet or a wormhole standing fleet, that's a spot where people give intel about enemies too and say, oh, everyone be careful, there's some enemy ships 2 jumps away. So being in a standing fleet is a good thing to do there. And if you're just doing solo stuff and you're bored and you want to hang out with other people, joining standing fleet's a good way to chat with other people what you're doing. Faction warfare is PvP, but there's a couple PvE sites and missions you can run in it, but you're likely going to find PvP while you're there. So faction warfare technically crosses the boundaries, but it's definitely 99% PvP. And faction warfare is something covered in a different class, but it's a type of PvP that you can go and do in small groups or big fleets. It's a lot of fun and something the uni might do more of as we move closer to faction warfare land. So I just covered all the types of fleets. Again, I hope you're not getting overwhelmed here. There won't be a test. You don't have to memorize these things. Don't stress it. Let's talk about how you actually find fleets. So when you're in game, the way you find fleets is you use the fleet finder in game. If you go to your Neocom in the top left, you go to social, you'll see a fleet button. From that, you can look at the fleet finder. Key thing here that you want to do when you're using the fleet finder is make sure that you have your availability set to either my corporation or my alliance. In this screenshot, it's set to alliance. If you leave it set to available, you're going to see a bunch of junk fleets from some public people that are doing things anyone can join, or some scammers that like to try and trick new bros into joining them. So set it to corporate alliance and you should just see a few. When the screenshot was taken, you can see there was a PC9 standing fleet and a special mining fleet up. Those will not always be there. PC9 standing won't be there because we don't live in PC9 anymore. But anytime you check this, you should see wormhole standing, and you'll probably see a high sec standing as well. And if a special fleet is happening, like Amphion's fleet in 15 minutes or my fleet in 45 minutes, you will see that in the fleet finder too. To look elsewhere as well, this is something that is in flux right now. So we used to use the Eve Uni forums to advertise our fleets. Now we are transitioning over to Discord events. This was just announced 2 days ago though, and not everyone has the capability to create events yet. This is something that should be changing within the next week or two. So hopefully soon you will be able to see events here in Discord to see when fleets are happening. I have permissions to create them because I'm a teaching officer and I was very tempted to create one for our fleet today, but I thought I shouldn't do special permissions just for me. So we're going to wait, and soon you should be able to see fleets in Discord events here in Discord. That is also going to link to the Uni calendar. There's going to be a separate calendar that contains all these things. At the State of the Alliance on Saturday, they mentioned that the calendar will be coming soon in the coming weeks. So these two things don't exist quite yet, but they will by the time you finish your holiday break, hopefully. The most reliable place to see when fleets are happening here in the Uni is in Discord here. It is in the PvP channel, specifically Ping PvP. This is a channel that is used just for telling when fleets are happening. For example, I pinged about our fleet coming up in 45 minutes in there. I pinged about that earlier. This is something that you have to opt into, so you might not see the Ping PvP channel by default. I have just linked it in our classroom chat there. If that shows up as no access for you, then you have to join the PvP group on Alliance Auth. That is where you first joined in the Uni. You joined through Auth. You have to register for things. So if you go into Alliance Auth, which I've just put a link for, and you see a PvP group, you might have to add that. Oh, someone pointed that it's enabled by default. Wonderful. Good to know, because I like to spam ping PvP, so I'm glad people are getting those pings. The other type of fleet that we haven't talked about, really, is NPSI, stands for Not Purple, Shoot It. And these are public fleets. Anyone can join these. These are mixed groups. So when you join an NPSI fleet, you might be flying with people from Goons and Horde and Init and Brave and other corps. Sometimes you'll even fly with people from some of the Uni's enemies like CFT and such. There's just a mixed group. People join up together, they go out and they do things and they find enemies to shoot. NPSI fleets are a lot of fun. There's a lot of different groups that do them. There is an NPSI calendar at that npsi.rocks website. We also have a channel here in Discord that links to their events. They're a good time. I would definitely recommend checking them out. They have some new player-friendly stuff as well. I've just linked that in the chat as well. I specifically called out there Bombers Bar, Spectre Fleet, Fun Inc. Those are all really good ones to join different things. Bombers Bar can be a lot of fun doing those Blops fleets. Sometimes it's boring as nothing happens, but sometimes you get some great fights. Spectre Fleet, they do the gate camps in Amazon. So if you hate gate camps and you want to go be a gate camper, you can join them. They also do roams and stuff. They do a lot of different stuff in Spectre Fleet. And Fun Inc. runs some really fast-moving fleets as a whole. Shrink Wrapped from them is a very popular one. They also have been doing some training in Nubro-friendly fleets the last few weeks. Good question in chat here. Are purple names friendly? Yes. Purple is the default color for people in your fleet. So when they say not purple shoot it, they mean shoot anybody that's not in your fleet. I should mention that we do have rules that you cannot shoot people who are blue to uni or green. So if you do go on an NPSI fleet and they happen to find some enemy uni people, you are not allowed to shoot the uni people. It's very rare. They usually end up more in nullsec and you'll most likely be shooting at big null block people. But just it stands for not purple shoot it, but you still can't be shooting blues or greens. So after that, we have how you actually join a fleet. So you found which fleet you want to join. You found the post on Discord or the ping for it. You've seen it. You know how to join it in game. What do you actually need to do to get ready to join the fleet? You should check. What's the fleet going to do? And can you fly something in the doctrine? So doctrines are the type of ships that we fly in a fleet. When we do fleets, we want to fly specific ships together. We do this so that we're all moving at similar speeds and we're all fighting at similar ranges. If we just have a fleet where everybody brings a random ship from their hangar, we're going to have people that are moving fast, people moving slow, people that fight far away, people that fight close. Some people will be shield tanked, some will be armor tanked. It'll be all sorts of confusing, and it doesn't always work so well. This is called a kitchen sink doctrine when that happens. So when we do most fleets, we don't do kitchen sink, we do a specific doctrine. We ask for a specific type of ships. Today, we are going to be doing our Magic Merlins doctrine, or because it's the holiday season, Merry Merlins, either one. So you want to check, can you fly something from the doctrine? To find our doctrines here in the Uni, you can find them in two different places. They are up on the Auth website, so you can find them on there. But the easier way is generally to look in-game. And I will show the in-game way in a slide or two. But when you look at a fitting in-game, you'll see that screenshot of that Merlin. In this example, you can see there's a little orange skill book with a 1. So that shows that 1 skill has to be trained still before this person can fly the ship. When you are joining a fleet, you should be prepared and arrive early. If the fleet says it is starting at 1900 in Stackman, you should be in Stackman at 1855 or so. You should be there a few minutes early. It's not the end of the world if you show up a few minutes into form up, but remember, when there's a fleet happening and there's 20 or 30 or 50 people in fleet, that's a lot of people that are going to be waiting if one person is late. You don't want to make 30 people have to wait an extra 10 minutes because you were far away. That's not fair to everyone's time. That's a lot of wasted time. So when you can, you should try to be early for fleets as best as possible. Be there just so you're ready. You have probably heard this before, but the number one rule in Eve is fly what you can afford to lose. Anytime you undock a ship, you are consenting to PvP. Even if you're in high sec, people can still gank you. So you should not be flying a ship that you can't afford. If you have 100 million ISK in your wallet, you should not be flying a ship worth 50 million ISK, because when that ship dies, you're going to have trouble replacing it. We do have something called SRP. SRP stands for Ship Replacement Program. This is where the uni will actually pay for ships lost in PvP fleets. So when you go out on a fleet like we're going to do today, if your ship dies, you can get money back for it. There's a few big asterisks to this though. The money isn't immediate. It takes a few days because we have volunteers here that are processing it. And it's not 100% of the cost of your ship. So don't assume the SRP is going to make sure that you're immediately paid the full value of what you lost. It might take a few days and it won't always be the full amount. If you're flying a small ship, like today, the Merlins and Bursts, sometimes you actually make profit with SRP on those, I will say. Sometimes you get more money back than you paid for the ship. But as you fly bigger ships, you get less and less money back. SRP is great. It's amazing. Most corporations will have SRP of some kind. Different ones have different rules. Unis is pretty generous. But yeah, you can always ask the FC, what's the SRP? Or do we have SRP here? But generally, all PvP fleets will have some form of SRP. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can always check in with the FC, the person in charge. You can message them on Discord or reply in a thread when they create one for their ping. You can message them in game. Yeah, feel free to reach out, especially here in the uni. We're all here to learn, and we know every one of you is here to learn. So I'm happy to answer questions if you reach out. So I mentioned checking the doctrines, checking the fittings, how you can check those. We have all of our doctrine fittings are saved in game. So actually, if you open up the fittings tool in game and you make sure that you have your you have your corporation's fittings filter online, you can find all of our corporation fittings in there. If you type in MER, it will show you the Merlin ones. So you can check real quick. You can just go in there, you can type Merlin, and you will see these ones pop up. In the uni here, we use doctrines that are usually 3 letters. For example, we have our Merlins, our armor assault frigates, our kiting small gang, our fast little frigates, our shield battle cruisers, our feroxes, all these different ones. So we have a lot of choices. If you search the 3 letters, it will show you all of the ships from that doctrine, so you can look at them. You want to look for those blue check marks. Blue check marks means that you can fly the ship. So when I search Merlin, I can see, hey, in the Merlin doctrine, I can fly the Condor, I can fly the Merlins, I can fly the Burst. Wonderful. I can fly whatever I like. If it is a red X, you can click on the fitting and you can check to see. So for example, I cannot fly a Wolf. When I do this, when I look at the Wolf, it would take me 8 days of training to get Minmatar Frigate 5 for the Wolf. So I will not be flying the KSG Wolf, for example. Okay, this is a part that is a little up in the air at the moment. I'm going to tell you now. So for those of you watching the recording, this might have changed by the time the recording. And for those of you here in class with me right now, well, today's going to be a little different. But generally, there's 3 different ways you can get ships. For ships, you can either bring or buy your own from Cheetah. You can get one off contract, or there are handouts sometimes. In the past, the uni tried to do a lot of contracts, and we still are going to do this for some ones for like ships in our new staging. But for now, we're going to try and move away from contracts. But if you go and check, you can find ships on contract still. And in fact, we have ships on contract for today. Don't buy those yet though, because I also have some to hand out. But yeah, you are checking if someone tells you ships are on contract, which you can usually find in the staging systems like Stackman or in our wormhole, you can find it in there. You can go to the contract search in game. You make sure the availability is set to my corporation. That lower red circle, this is the key thing. You want to make sure your availability is my corporation or you're not going to see these. You can type the name of the ship in the top box. One little annoying thing here is that you have to type the name of the ship, not the doctrine. So if you type in SBC in here, you're not going to see any of the SBC ships. You're only going to see things that have it in the actual name. So you actually have to write in Merlin here. And one other little thing, if you are buying a ship off contract, is when they are put on contract, the rigs are not fit. So if you see that screenshot, there's no rigs installed. They are just in the cargo. So when you get a ship off contract, take the rigs, install them in your fitting. This is just done to make it easier for logistics with contracts and repackaging things. But yeah, if you buy a ship off contract, fit your rigs. Just remember to do this. When you do that, online your guns, you might have had one offline. Other option, if we are doing a fleet from JITA, you are going to have to buy your own ship in JITA generally. This can be pretty easy. It takes like button clicks to do. If you're buying your own ship in JITA, you use the multi-buy button. That is in the lower right corner of the fitting window. So when you're looking at a fitting, you press this multi-buy button. It'll pop up a bunch of things to buy. You click on buy. Wonderful, you own them all. After that, you click on this fit ship button. You click OK, it will fit the ship for you. Then you have this ship ready to go. So it takes 4 clicks and you will have this ship purchased and ready in your hangar, ready to load. In the future, this is more the direction Uni is going. We are going to do more fleets out of JITA, so we are going to be doing these buy your own ships. Again, today this isn't what we're doing, but this is something to know about for the future. Use the multi-buy option. And remember to get it in your ship after you do this. When you fit the ship, it will be in your hangar. Don't undock in your pod though, make sure you get in the ship. Last option too is handouts. Handouts are usually done for stratops, so those big ones where the Uni will lend you a ship to use for it. I will be handing out some Merlins today as well because we actually had too many Merlins. So I've got some free Merlins to give you as a gift today. But yes, Stratops, usually if ships are handed out, normally you look in the messages. The message of the day will have info in it. So for example, in this one, we have who you trade for each ship. So when you check if you can fly a T1 Ferox, you trade with Enyo. If you can fly a T2, you trade with Kodo. And if you can fly the Bazzi, you'd trade with Luna. And they will just give you a ship. Sometimes it'll be just one person giving out ships. In that case, they might tell you to trade an ISK value. So in that screenshot on the right there, that will be if only I was handing out ships. And when you would open a trade window with me, you would just put 1 ISK if you wanted T1 or 2 ISK for T2. These are different ways we do handouts. Generally, you need to remember for Stratops, these ships are loaners. They are given to you to use for the fleet. If they die, that's okay. No big deal. It happens. But you do have to give the ship back at the end. Big X on that one for today, though. The ships I'm giving you today are a gift. But we're going to make them blow up, so it doesn't matter because you're not going to keep it. One other thing I should mention, when you join a stratop, if you see this, don't automatically join and open a trade right away. Sometimes the FC will want to wait and get things sorted out first, just so you're not spamming people. And when you join a stratop, lots of times there will be 70, 80, even 100 people in fleet. So you need to be patient because maybe 50 people just all open trade windows with Enyo. So it might take you a minute to get a ship. Yes, there is a comment here in the chat about when you buy in JITA, sometimes things will be inflated. So yes, you do have to be a little careful with the multi-buy. Sometimes people will play market PvP to mess with it. So yeah, if you get that pop-up telling you that something is 500% the normal price, just watch out. Okay, halfway through our time, we've gone through a lot of info. We're going to get into some more here. We're going to talk about voice chat for a second. But again, I just want to slow things down and say, don't stress trying to memorize all of this. This is a very information-dense class. Focus on what you can. Don't stress if you don't remember it all or if I'm telling you a lot of stuff that sounds like I'm speaking Greek. So to join a fleet, voice chat is key. You do not have to speak, but you need to be able to listen. Eve is a slow-moving spreadsheets in space game until it gets fast. When we start PvPing and things get fast, we need to be able to talk quick, and you need to be able to listen to your FC. So you need to be able to join and listen. So what you're all doing right now, sitting here in Discord listening to me, wonderful. You've got that down. You just need to do the same thing on the fleet. I will say Mumble or Discord is going to vary as well. In the past, Uni has used Mumble. Mumble has been very frustrating lately, so we are switching to using Discord now more. Mumble will still be used for our larger fleets, such as our Stratops. So it's useful to have Mumble installed and know how to use it. But generally, we're going to try and do things more here in Discord now. Make sure you have push to talk set up as well. Nobody wants to hear your partner vacuuming in the background or your dog barking or you coughing and sneezing. So make sure push to talk is set up. Oh, I forgot to delete this. I went through and I updated all these slides after the State of the Alliance, but I forgot about this one. Uni fleets are generally family friendly, and you will hear the term unicoms. As of 2 days ago, this is no longer a thing. You can now swear in uni fleets. Please be mature about it still. No one minds if you curse a bit, but don't just go extreme. Keep things respectful as well. Slurs, hateful language, those are still not allowed, but if you swear a little bit, it's not gonna be the end of the world. Yes, I'm gonna keep this class Unicom still because it's a class and I want to keep things proper. But yeah, if you find the swearing I'm seeing in chat now. We'll hear people talk about open comms or closed or combat comms. What this means is that when things are open comms, is you can talk. You can come off mute, you can push to talk, and you can chat. You have a question what's going on? Sure, ask it. You want to talk to your friends in the fleet about what you're doing for your Christmas break? Sure, come off mute, talk about it. We can all chat about that. Lovely. You want to talk about Emily in Paris? Let's talk about Emily in Paris. Let's go for it. Open comms is we are free to chat. However, when stuff starts happening in game, when our fleet has just been moving, we're bored, we've been going 5 jumps, nothing's been happening, we're chatting, that's great. But then we see some enemies. Then we switch to closed or combat comms. This means no more just BSing, no more just saying silly stuff. We need to listen and focus to what the FC is saying and what the scouts are saying. You will hear sometimes people say break or check. So if you are sitting here talking and you're explaining something in open comms and you hear break or check, that's a nice way of saying shut up. It's a nice way of saying stop talking. I have something important about what's going on. So maybe we're out on a fleet. We're all sitting on a gate. We're bored right now, just waiting. I'm telling you about what my dog just did that was so cute. One of our scouts comes in, they say, break, there's an enemy fleet coming. That means we need to get serious. Part of combat comms also means knowing what to share with the fleet. So some of our fleets will have 30 people in them, will have 50 people in them. If we get into a fight and you die or you get tackled and you come on comms and you start saying, oh no, I'm being shot, oh no, I'm dead, it's disruptive, it's distracting, we can't get across important information. So it sounds very callous, but this is a lesson for big fleets. You have to die quietly. If you are dying in a fleet fight, you just die. Okay? Go over what you can do to try to stay alive in a few slides. But as a whole, you should not be saying on comms, I'm being shot. That is not something that you should be interrupting with because you're interrupting vital stuff. I don't want to stress people out with all this. These aren't hard, rigid rules. If you come out and you're excited and you say you're getting shot, you're not going to get kicked out or anything like that, okay? Just keep in mind that there's a bunch of other people in fleet and they're all trying to listen to the FC. So when you say something in comms and you're interrupting or blocking it, it's an issue. Sound like rigid rules. Don't stress it. Again, don't stress it. But yes, if someone is saying some important intel, don't interrupt them. Yeah, used to dying. Okay, is where some of that information overload really starts to kick in. On this slide, I've got 9 or 10, I think, different roles in a fleet. These are different important things, but the key thing here I want you to focus on is just the first 4, okay? These 9 or 10, they're all important, but as you're starting out, as you're joining your first few fleets, the first 4 are the only ones you need to actually remember. First up is the FC and the 2IC and 3IC. This is who's in charge. I've been using the term FC a lot today. I didn't explain it yet. Yeah, he is fleet commander. This is the person who's leading the fleet, telling you where to go, telling you what to do, telling you who to shoot. They're the one who organized it. I will be the FC for our fleet in a half hour from now, for example. 2IC is someone that takes over if the FC dies. So if we're out there and I die, someone else takes over for the fleet, so they tell you what to do. Uni fleets, we normally don't do a 3IC because we do smaller stuff, but if you join a large fleet, you might see a 3IC as well. The main part of a fleet is our damage dealers, our DD or DPS. You'll hear both terms used here. DD or DPS. But yeah, these are the people that are doing damage to the enemy. These are the people that are shooting the ships. These are the majority of a fleet. In any fleet, I would say DPS could be anywhere from ships to 80% of ships are flying DPS, sometimes more even, depending on the fleet type. So this is what most people will be flying. In our Merlin doctrine, these are our Merlins, our damage dealers. The other important one to know here is Logi. Logi are the healers, if you want to compare to other games. Logis do repairs to the fleet. They keep us alive. There's two types of Logi. There's shield Logi or armor Logi. And this is why doctrines are important, because we want to fly with the type of Logi that matches our ships. So we are flying Merlins today, which are Kaldari ships, which are shield based. So we have shield Logi. So we have Logi that sends us shield repairs. If you are flying our AAF doctrine, AAFs are armor ships, so they have armor Logi, for example. Yeah, Logi are healers. Today it'll be bursts with the Merlins. Ooh, there's a good question in Fleet Chat. Is there a limit to how many people can join a fleet? That's going to depend on the fleet and the FC. Some people will put a cap on a fleet depending on what they're doing. If they're trying to keep things small, they might have a limit of 10. If they're running home fronts, can only have 5 people in them, so they might say 5 there. If a fleet is going to filament, they might put a limit of 25 because 25 is the max you can filament, and some fleets will have no max. So it will depend a lot on the specific fleet. The last of the super important roles I want you to remember is the scout. Scouts are very important. Without a scout, we cannot have a fleet. We need scouts. Super important job. Scouts go ahead of the fleet and they find enemies for us. So they make sure that it is safe for us to go where we are going, and they try to find enemies that we can then come and all kill together. Scouts are people that fly separate ships. They fly faster, smaller ships generally that can tackle enemies and warp quickly. In our Merlin doctrine, the Condor is the scout, but we also have interceptors that do this too, like the Crows. Scouting, really fun. It's fun to be the scout. You do a lot more independent stuff. It's also a bit harder to be the scout. It takes a bit more game knowledge, a bit more practice, and you also need to have a microphone to be able to relay things to the FC. So those are the important fleet roles to know. When you're starting out and when you're joining fleets like today, you need to know the FC, the damage, the Logi, and the scout. I'm going to go through a few more now that are icing on the cake. These are ones that we love to have, but they're not as important. And yes, I see someone asking about fleet. The fleet is not up yet. We're doing this first. So next up we have E-War. Are basically the debuffs. E-War ships make it so enemy ships are not as good. They might reduce the range that they can lock people at. They might reduce the range of their weapons. They might make their weapons miss more. They might make it so that enemies lose all their locked targets. There's a lot of different types of E-War. And yeah, very effective, very useful. One E-War ship can change a fight so much. So E-War is super useful. A good thing to get into. This is something we're going to try and do a lot more of in the Uni too, is have more E-War on fleets. We also have a booster or a Lynx pilot. These are ones who give command bursts. These are buffs to the fleet. So they do an AoE buff that makes all of our ships move faster or have longer range or more armor or more shield. So these are very useful to have as well. These take a bit more skill to get into. Training into these is a long skill train, but super useful as well. We'll also have bubblers or dictors. Interdictor, full term there. These are special ships that can put out bubbles that block people from warping. So these are very useful when we're out in nullsec or in wormholes to stop enemies from getting away. Bubbles are something that affect everyone, enemies and friendlies though. So when someone puts up a bubble, it can be a good or a bad thing for all of us because we might be trapped there too. But yeah, super useful. We try to bring them along anytime we go to nullsec. I think we've got some bubblers on contract today. We'll see. Another special role that you might hear about is a boosher. Lots of times a boosher will also be the booster or link ship from above. They can do both in one. But a boosh is a special type of ship that can make it so 20 to 25 ships near it can be pushed 100 kilometers away. So if you've used a micro jump drive, it's similar to that, but it affects a group of ships. So if we're fighting and we have a boosher with us, maybe our boosher will boosh away all the enemy Logi. So all the enemy Logi will all of a sudden be 100 kilometers from the fleet, and then they can't heal the fleet anymore. Or maybe we're fighting somebody at a gate and we're worried that they're going to jump the gate. So we have the Boucher, the enemy, 100 kilometers off the gate. So now we know they're not going to jump and get away from us. It's a specialty roll, but it's a fun one. And that is the special or the different fleet rolls to go over. Again, focus on the first four. No FC, no damage, no Logi, and no Scout. The other four are wonderful extra icing on the cake, but you don't have to stress about memorizing them for now. A little bit about watch lists. When you join a fleet, you want to set up a watch list. A watch list lets you easily see the people in your fleet. Generally, you'll want to add your FC and your scouts to your watch list. To set up your watch list, you just, in uni fleets at least, you can look at the message of the day. In the message of the day, you should see a list of who to add to your watch list. To do that, you just right click on a name, you go to fleet, and you select add to watch list. This will then pop up this new window on your screen with someone's name on it. After that, you can then drag and drop names onto your watch list. You can color code them as well. I like to color code based on roles. So in this case, Mr. Ba was the FC, Hakoru was a scout, Keaton was Logi, and Klasau was another damage dealer with me when I took this screenshot. So I colored my scouts yellow and my Logi green. You can color people whatever you want. This is always a hotly debated thing, what the best color for Logi is. There's people with very strong feelings about that. Do whatever you like. You want to add the FC, the 2IC, and the scouts. Those are the important ones to have so that you can easily warp to them or anchor on them. I'll explain that in a bit. If you're flying Logi, if you're flying a healer though, you should try to add everyone to your watch list if you can, because this makes it easy to heal people. In this screenshot, we are not on grid together, but when you have people on your watch list, you can see their health as well if you are on the same grid. So Logi can use watch list to heal people. Very useful. So yeah, if you're flying damage, you just need the FC, the 2IC, and the scouts. You can add others. I like to have everyone, but you don't have to. If you're flying Logi, you should try to add as many people as you can. Get the whole list on there, hopefully. And yeah, code it however you like there. No one else will know your colors. Okay. When you're talking in fleet, you've joined that fleet. You're in your ship. You've got your watch list set up. You're out in space now, flying with the fleet. Wonderful. You want to chat about something. Like I said, open comms, we're talking about whatever. Great, talk about whatever. When you've got important things to say, though, when we are in combat comms or you're relaying intel, you want to make sure that you're being succinct, clear, and calm. The issue here we run into is if there's 30 of us in a fleet, I don't know everyone's voice. I don't know who is who. So if you start speaking and you say, I'm being shot, well, I don't know who you are. I don't know who I'm is. I don't have all voices memorized. So when you're in fleets, you want to talk in the third person and you want to give as much information as you can about what's happening there. So if you just say, I'm being shot here. Okay, I don't know who I is and I don't know where here is. So if you say instead, oh, Tomlin is being shot on the PC9 gate. Okay, a lot more useful. I know it's Tomlin and I know it's the PC9 gate. So I know the who and the where and the what being shot. Yeah, takeaway from this part is just, yeah, to speak in the third person, try to be as simplistic as you can here. Don't spend 5 minutes telling me you're being shot. Try and do it in one sentence. And if you're not sure, you can always ask. And I talked about this earlier about open comms and closed comms. Yeah, so if we have open comms, you can speak up and you can say, hey, what's going on? Or hey, I fell behind, I'm being shot. Again, don't say I. Say, hey, Tomlin fell behind. Where are we? If it's closed comms, if we're in the middle of fighting, please just write it in the fleet chat. Again, this seems like a lot of hard and solid rules. What I'm telling you are best practices. If you get excited and if we're in a fight and you come off comms and you say, oh no, I'm dying, you might get a little annoyed, but no one's going to kick you or anything, okay? Don't worry, don't stress it. It's exciting when you're in a fight for the first times and even the 100th time. Eve fights can be fun. It's not always spreadsheets. So if you cannot be speaking up in comms because we're in closed combat comms, and if you have things to relay to the fleet, how do you do it? Well, you do it through broadcasts. Broadcasts are super important. They are how we communicate with the fleet in game, both from me as the FC to you and from you to Logi saying you need help. Anytime you're in a fleet, you should have your broadcast window open somewhere on your screen. It's in that same fleet and fleet finder window. It pops up when you're in a fleet, and it is used to share information. For example, here I broadcast at the bottom, you can see an align command. When we're moving as a group, we want to all align together so that we can warp together and we move as one big group. So a lot of times FCs will tell you to align to something. We do this to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind If enemies are hunting us and we all just warp individually, then enemies are going to catch the slow-moving people who might be our Logi and our special friends. So we don't want that to happen. We all align so we can warp together. We also use this when we need reps. So if we're in a big fight and we're all getting shot, if 20 of us are all saying in comms at once, oh no, I'm being shot, Logi doesn't know what to do. But you just broadcast, need shield. Okay, it knows to heal you. The need shield button is one of these at the bottom. I believe it's this one, the third one. This one is need armor. Honestly, you can press either one and Logi will know that you need healing. We don't do mixed fleets. And also targets. So maybe we land and there are 20 enemies there. And I say, okay, we're going to shoot Dave here. Everyone, let's shoot Dave. But they're busy. There's a lot of names. Oh, how do you find Dave in your overview? Well, I will broadcast a target. So you can just see it right there and you can control click in here from that list. Same thing for Logi. You can control click in here to lock up people to heal them in here. That's broadcasts. Okay, we're coming towards the last part of the class, and this is another very information dense part. I'm going to go through commands that you will hear in Fleet, so instructions that you will hear from your FC on what to do. There's a few different ones. They are important, but again, if you can't remember all of them, don't stress it, okay? What you will hear, align. I just mentioned align there in the last slide. With the broadcast, yeah, align is a very common command. We do this when we want to get ready to warp somewhere. So you will hear your FC say align. To align to something means you press that first button in your selected item window. This will make your ship fly in that direction. When you are aligned to something, we can instantly warp. So it is good to pre-align. So I will say align to the outgate, for example. If you are on grid with something, this will not be labeled align, this will be labeled approach. But approach and align mean the exact same thing. Approach or align to this. So if you hear align, that just means your ship should be pointed in that direction, but not warping. If you hear hold on contact or jump, what these mean is when we get to a gate. Hold means do not go through, and jump means go through. I like to use the colors red and green for this, just to keep it easy. And like a stoplight, green means go, red means stop. So lots of times I will say, okay, the gate is red. That means do not jump the gate. If I say gate is green, that means jump the gate, go through. We're always very careful with the word jump, especially with other people talking. So if we are sitting on a gate, please try not to say the J word. Do not say the word jump unless FC has said to jump. And yes, you can see people in chat saying why right now. There's a popular Lemmings gif about it too. It's very easy for people to get confused and jump gates that they shouldn't. So if we're chatting and we're all hanging out on the gate waiting, please don't say the J word. But yeah, wait for your FC to say gate is green or jump. You'll also hear commands like make best speed just means you warp and jump on your own. You travel alone, not with the fleet. So you just go there quickly. Key thing here too, I always try to do this, is that important commands are usually repeated 3 times. Some FCs do this, some don't. Because we're uni and we're all learners here, like I said, I try to do this each time. So I will say jump. I say, okay, align to here or jump to the next system. My wife calls Eve the jump game because she hears me say jump so much, or she's heard other people say it on comms. Other little bits, as you can see in the screenshot in the lower right, we have an in gate and an out gate. So an in gate is how we enter a system. When we come in, we're at the in gate, and the out gate is the one we're leaving from. You'll also hear it called the yellow brick road, because if you have a destination set, your destination gate will be yellow. So you'll hear it said yellow brick road or out gate there. Other fleet commands that you will hear, anchor. Anchoring is an important one. So anchoring is when you right click on the person on your watch list and you select keep at range. This will make your ship just follow their ship. This is very useful if we are doing some manual piloting around bubbles, or if we need to get away from certain things. I might say, okay, anchor on FC. And this is why it's really important to have the FC on your watch list. So if you have your watch list set up and you just right click on the FC's name and select keep at range, your ship will follow them. So very good one to know, anchor. Usually the instructions will come for prop mod, on or off. Prop mod means your micro warp drive or your afterburner, the thing that speeds you up. So I will usually try to say, okay, anchor up, micro warp drive's on, or okay, off. Yes, somebody shared the GIF now of the lemmings and the jump. Wonderful. Another important command to know is scatter. Scatter basically means run away. If you hear the FC says scatter, that just means you pick a random spot and you warp out. Normally, if we can, I will try to get everyone out together. But sometimes a fight is going bad, or we're in a bubble, or something's happening, and we just all need to try to survive. So I will say scatter, and this just means you get out of there. Warp to a moon, warp to the sun, warp to a planet. Just warp somewhere away from where we are right now, just to try to escape. There's a lot more you can do here with setting up bookmarks and safes. That's for another class. A bit more commands that you will hear. Lock up. So locking people up, that just means you target them. Does not mean shooting them. One very important thing to cover here is that you should not be shooting enemies unless the FC tells you to. Okay? The reason for this is we have something called aggression timers in Eve, or weapons timers. When you shoot an enemy, or you use E-War, or a point, or scram, or anything like that on an enemy, you cannot jump through a gate for 60 seconds after. So if we are sitting on a gate and an enemy is sitting on a gate with us, if we all shoot at the enemy and they do not shoot us back, that enemy can just jump through the gate and run away from all of us. So there will be lots of times on gates when we will lock up enemies, but we do not shoot them yet. We just get ready to. So we just wait. So if you hear me say lock them up or yellow box them, this just means lock them and do not do anything else. Don't attack. We wait for them to attack first and get committed. So yellow box, when something has locked you up, you will see a yellow box around their icon on the overview. You've seen this from NPCs and missions. If you've done PvE stuff, you'll see this for enemies in PvP too. A yellow box means that something has locked you up. Red box, when it turns red, that means that they have shot you. So yellow box just means only target, no shooting yet. When we do start shooting, you'll lots of times hear primary, secondary, sometimes tertiary. This just means this is the order we're going to kill these things. So we get into a fight and I say, okay, lock Luna, Kodo. Luna is primary and you're secondary. We're going to shoot Luna first as primary, then Enyo secondary. Yeah, good. You guys are awake. I see the responses in chat there. But yeah, just means shoot them first. Listen, because sometimes that might change. You'll also hear the term E-War only. This is something we do when we're going to be shooting small stuff, like do this for pods or a small ship. E-War only just means don't do anything that will damage the enemy. You can still use your warp scrambler, your warp disruptors. You can use your E-War on it, but do not do anything that will hurt it. We do this just so that everybody can get credit for the kill. When we kill an enemy, there is a kill mail generated, and anybody who aggressed the enemy shows up on it. Sometimes we will kill an enemy and they will have a very expensive pod, but it takes a long time to lock up a pod and they die early. So when we see pods, we do E-War only so that all of the fleet can lock up the pod and get credit for that kill. Oh yeah, X, Y, and Z in this, this was just, yeah, so yeah, we're just in place of names. So so-and-so is primary, other person is secondary, and so on. Okay, all the commands. Again, I know it was a lot. I know you're probably sitting here going, oh, how am I supposed to remember all these different types of ships, all these different instructions? Oh my God, this is too much. Eve is too much. I'm going to just go play WoW. Don't stress it. We're going to go over all of this in the fleet that we're going to do in a few minutes. We're going to practice it, and it's okay if you make mistakes, so no stress. Guys, when it comes to the end, when you want to leave. Oh, somebody's saying, forgot to take notes. Don't worry, I did record this. I will be sharing the recording later on today or tomorrow. Hopefully. It's holiday times. I'll see when I can get it up. But yeah, I'll have a recording of this. So when the fleet is done, or before it's done even, you're always welcome to leave. Real life comes first, always. So if your wife starts going into labor, if your child is getting sick all of a sudden, if your cat is saying, hey, give me attention, and you need to leave, you're welcome to leave. So don't worry about that. If you have something pre-scheduled, you can always tell the FC at farm up. You can say, hey, FC, I'm going to have to leave in 1 hour, just so we know. Not a huge deal if you don't worry. When you leave, yeah, put a -1 in fleet chat so that we know. You can say bye. You don't have to. You can thank the FC, but you don't have to. Don't worry about that. If something does happen, if there's drama on the fleet, if you feel that you were wronged in some way, if the FC said something improper, if something happened that you don't agree with, by all means, we can talk about it, but it's not the best time to raise it during the fleet. Okay? Remember, if there's 20 or 30 of us together out there and we're all flying and you start to bring up an issue in the middle of things, it's a lot of people's time that's being wasted there. It's a lot going on. Please hold it for after. This is something we can cover in debrief. And this is also a slide I need to update because as of 2 days ago, we no longer have student advocates in the uni. So don't worry about student advocates. If you feel that the FC is mean to you, you can raise it up to a manager or director. They can be the ones to deal with that. But yeah, I have led a ton of fleets and I have never had issues with this, but it's just something that might happen. I'm just asking, just please don't create drama during the fleet, save it for the end. So, fleet is over. What do you do now? FCs will try to do a debrief at the end of a fleet generally. So they'll do a few minutes, they might explain some of the decisions they made, and they might have a chance for questions. Debrief is a great time to ask questions. Usually during the fleet, we're too busy, so you might think like, why did he tell us not to shoot the Rorqual? Or why did he tell us to do this? Debrief, perfect time to ask those questions. If you died, apply for SRP. The FC will share the link with you to apply for SRP and give some instructions. It's not hard. It takes just a minute of time once you do it. Easy to do. Just ask, FC will help you. Some FCs will write an AAR, stands for After Action Report. This can be just their report of how the fleet went, what happened. Not all FCs will do this. Some do it, some don't. I personally like to write them, so I write a bunch. We used to put them on the forums. Now they are here in Discord. We have a specific area for them, which I will link right in chat here. There is a link to the AAR section. If you are thinking of FCing and thinking of writing AARs, don't copy my style. I write way too much. I write stories about what happened during the fleet, and this is not the efficient way to do it. But yeah, it can just be a battle report with a few lines about learning. That's completely fine. And yeah, don't get posted immediately either, since it takes time to write. And yeah, sure that you get back into your training clone if you were not in your training clone during the fleet. That's just a little reminder because we've all forgotten to do that at times, and you want to be in your training clone when you can. Okay, that was a lot. I know there was a lot of info in there. I know we probably have some questions. So we are at the hour mark, but we're going to form up the fleet in a few minutes. I'm going to give you a few minutes for questions. So yeah, is open. I'm going to take a drink here. And if you've got questions, please put them in the chat or come off mute and share them. I will be happy to answer what we can. And we will try to get the fleet underway in 5 minutes or so. Okay. I combine T1 and T2 fits if I don't have all the skills. So yes, that will take some playing around with things, but generally you can. It might affect SRP a bit, but you will still get some level of SRP for it. But yeah, you should try to fly as much T2 stuff as you can. But yeah, you have some mix between the two, that's perfectly fine. There's a question, if you die, do you rejoin? So that is a good question, and that depends a lot on the fleet and where we are. So sometimes on the fleet, we'll have half the fleet die and half survive, and then we'll all go back to a spot where we can regroup and people can rejoin. Sometimes we're very far away from those spots and people can't rejoin. So it's gonna depend a lot on the situation. We try to get it so people can rejoin if they can, generally, but it's not always possible because sometimes we might be 50 jumps away from anything good. So yeah, with Eve, the answer is always, it depends.